What is up, everybody? We're all the way in Portugal today for something special. We are checking out the all-new BMW 5 Series, which upon launch was introduced with the 520i, 520d, 520d xDrive, i5 eDrive 40 and the i5 M60. More specifically, we are standing right next to the i5 eDrive 40, which is the all-electric version of the 5 Series. This is the first time the 5 Series has an all-electric version, but this is good enough to let you see what the all-new BMW 5 Series looks like. Let's carry on with it. Now let's first address what the BMW 5 Series is. It is a luxury saloon that has been around for more than half a century now, and it has been the reference point for a lot of modern sedans that we see today. With this latest 5 Series, we are now in the G60 generation, and prior to this we've seen the G30, F10, E60, E39, E34, all the way back to the E12. The G60 is the first generation to introduce an all-electric version of the 5 Series, which is called the i5. So it is quite a significant milestone. And upon the published date of this video, we are still anticipating the touring version of the 5 Series, the M5, the M5 Touring, and a few more variations of this car. Now, like I've said, we are looking at the i5 eDrive 40, and this test unit right here comes with the M Sport package. So you can see that the front bumper comes with the M Sport bumper, the wheels, they are the M wheels, there's an M badge on the front fender, and just M treatment all around. The i5 eDrive 40 also comes without an M Sport package, should you desire that one. Now let's talk about the 5 Series as the all-new car. Now this car has grown larger, it is longer, it is wider, is a bit taller, and the wheelbase is also now a bit longer. With the i5 as a reference here, we pretty much see the 5 Series in general already. It is designed to be a flexible car to cater to most types of powertrains, so looks-wise there isn't much difference between the petrol and electric 5 Series. At the front end, it has gone in the direction of the 2 Series Coupe with its headlight design. They do have a positive canthal tilt, which is something deemed as an attractive feature if seen on a human face. Think of Margot Robbie's eyes for an example. The headlights also seem like a tribute to the Bangle era E65 series, which was rather controversial when it first debuted. The kitty grille, although quite large, is rather proportional to everything else, and personally I think it is quite well done. Like the other new Beamers, it does get an iconic glow just to make it a bit more obvious that it is indeed a BMW. What is maybe not so sleek here is the front radar placement, which stands out a bit more on the i5 M60 when there are no fake slates on the grille. The radar panel just becomes a bit too obvious. On the sides, it is a clean look for the 5 Series. The feature lines are actually not as dramatic as the ones on the G30. The G60 also looks taller. Door handles are not electric but flush. Overall, it looks bigger, and that's because it really is, just slightly in every single dimension. Another thing you'll notice on the sides are these black pieces at the bottom. They are intentional and they're there to make the 5 Series look slimmer. At the back, there's nothing too wild here, horizontal taillights, and everything just kind of flows nicely into the rear end thanks to the sloping roofline. And of course, there's the signature Hofmeister kink. And in case you were wondering about the suspension setup of the i5 eDrive 40, well, you get a double wishbone setup at the front and a 5-link setup at the back, and it's air suspension. What's interesting about the all-new 5 Series, or the i5, is that it also comes with rear axle steering. Inside, the all-new 5 Series now follows in the footsteps of its bigger brother, the 7 Series. So we actually get this twin curved display, it's a big one, and of course we also get the interaction bar. The interaction bar is active and it responds to the hazard light warning and changes color depending on the driving mode that you are in. So the main head unit now comes with the BMW operating system iDrive 8.5, so that's the latest one, and it's a 14+ inch screen here and a smaller one for the instrument cluster. Of course, as usual, you can customize these displays to suit your needs. Of course, the head unit comes with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Aircon controls are also via the head unit, although the vent aperture and vent direction control is still physical. Move further down and we have two wireless phone chargers, two cup holders and this controller for the head unit. I do find it very helpful when switching between navigation and adjusting the driving modes. Also on the center console is a storage compartment beneath the armrest. Not too deep, but it does come with a 12-volt socket. The doors, they are not motorized like the ones in the i7 or 7 series, and that's not a problem. Seats are very comfy and large. They do make me look really small in here. And the fun fact about the interior of the 5 series or i5 is that it gets a vegan interior as standard. So there's no real leather in here, and good or bad, I'll leave that to you to decide. At the back, space in the 5 series is actually pretty decent. Legroom is decent and so is headroom. Luxuries at the back include this USB-C port behind the driver's seat, USB-C port behind the passenger seat, two USB-C ports here, climate controls, there's vents here, and there's also vents on the side pillars. Other than that, well, we get an armrest at the center here with two cup holders and a large panoramic glass roof. What is, well, maybe a bit weird for an electric car, this is the i5, well, we still get this center tunnel here, but this is because the 5 series caters to quite a number of powertrains. As for boot space, well, if we're comparing apples to apples, the boot space is a bit smaller for the 520i by 10 litres, so it is 520 litres in the 520i. It is a different case for the PHEV versions of the 5 series, as boot space is now larger by 27%, jumping from 410 litres to 520 litres as well. The i5, on the other hand, has a boot space of 490 litres. Underneath the boot floor is a space for your cable, the rear seats fold down for extra space, and the tailgate is powered. As for battery and charging, we get an 81.2 kWh battery in the i5 that gives up to 582 kilometers of range in the i5 eDrive 40 and 516 kilometers of range in the i5 M60. Both i5 variants can handle a maximum charging rate of 22 kilowatts with AC charging and 205 kilowatts with DC charging. The former takes 4.5 hours to charge from flat to full, while the latter takes 30 minutes to charge from 10% to 80%. So we are driving the BMW i5 eDrive 40, and mind you, this is a single motor rear wheel drive electric car. And the thing about electric cars is that, well, if you've driven an electric car with dual motors, it's pretty much like driving a car with two engines. So they're very powerful, right? It's one motor at the front, one motor at the back, and your torque figures can easily exceed 500 Newton meters or so. So this one, i5 eDrive 40, packs the single motor rear wheel drive setup, 340 horsepower and 430 Newton meters of torque under certain conditions. Now, what do I mean by that is that the 340 horsepower is available when you put the car in the sport mode, and the 430 Newton meters of torque is there when you engage the boost pedal, which is located on the left hand side of the steering wheel. 0 to 100 is done in 6 seconds. I am accelerating now onwards to a top speed of 193 kilometers an hour. So how does the i5 eDrive 40 feel as a single motor electric car? Well, it feels effortless. I've driven the i7 with the dual motor setup, and that was great. It's effortless, it's nice. I had to sprint just now to the photo location, and yeah, it just feels effortless. Let's move on to comfort. Right, I like the fact that the 5 Series, even if it's all new, they're still stuck with the doors with the frames for the windows, so noise insulation is great. Feels nicely insulated inside here. I am going down the highway at a bit over 100 kilometers an hour. just heard that I went over the solid line strip and noise just comes out. So that's good. You're not completely living in a different world when you're driving this car. Let's first address the ergonomics and the comfort of it all. Alright, so seats, I love them. They're on the plush side of things, and well, being a BMW, well, I think the ergonomics are spot on. Steering wheel, love the girth of it. The armrest position is good. The center console position is nice. Everything's just well within reach in here. And just in case you didn't know, these seats actually have these side bolsters that they tighten up when you're in the sport mode. Now, we can't talk about driving the BMW Electric 5 Series without addressing the iconic sounds. Now this, if you didn't know yet, well, the iconic sounds was designed by the legendary Hans Zimmer. So the sound profiles for the iconic sounds are somewhat embedded into the driving modes of the car. So there's the sport mode, there's the expressive mode, there's the relaxed mode, and so on. What do I think about it? Well, you know what? I think that it is entertaining. All right, when you put it in sport, kind of sounds like you're going through warp speed or so. But if I'm being honest, my personal preference, I just have it turned off, really. All right, so one thing to note of the all-new 5 Series or the i5 is that it actually comes with this automatic lane change system that is activated by looking into your side mirrors. So the previous stage of this kind of automatic driving was that if you turn on your indicators left or the highway, then the car would initiate a lane change. All right. Now, well, things have gone to the next level, and what happens is that you simply look into the side mirror and it actually changes lanes for you. Well, of course, this doesn't work in the unit that I'm driving right now, but we will get a chance to try this out while we're here, and we'll move on to a footage of me trying that out. Okay, so I am trying out the active lane change assistant in the BMW i5. So what I did just now was just indicate right, and it merged right, of course. But now we are approaching a car further up ahead, and like I said, this is a step up from the indicator as the initiator. So the car will actually prompt you to look into the side mirror, and should you decide it's safe to change lanes, it will actually do it for you by just you looking into the mirror. Someone overtaking on the left, car just initiates lane change to the left, so that's nice. And once that's done, actually the car stays on that lane that you just changed into. It won't go back into the middle lane, but of course you can always initiate this with the indicator stock as well. So now I'm in the left lane. Left lane's a fast lane in this country. Going to the middle lane just by indicating. Also works by just the one-touch operation, but I didn't do that just now. Of course, as well, if you're trying to change lanes and there's a car from that lane that you want to merge into from behind, it won't commit to that lane change, so to speak. So this is it. This is the highway assistant, the active lane change assist in the i5. Hands are not on the steering wheel, but of course the car still warns you if you're not paying full attention. It did just a bit earlier. You can't let it operate totally by itself. You still have to pay attention to what's going on the road. So that's it. That's our experience with the active lane change assistant. So far, well, i5 eDrive 40, quite like it. We put it in comfort, even in sport, I would say this rides like a proper luxury car. Alright, so that's it. Single motor, rear wheel drive. We have yet to drive the performance version of the electric 5 Series. That will be the i5 M60. So let's switch to the M60 now. Jumping into the i5 M60, and immediately we get a dual motor setup, which easily means a lot more power. Now, I know from the angle that you're looking at me, it might be hard to tell that this is actually the i5 M60 compared to the i5 eDrive 40 with the M Sport package. And the changes are really quite subtle, like the blue and red stitches on the steering wheel, there's blue and red stripes on the seat belts, and the instrument cluster gets a bit of the M Sport treatment as well. Now, the dual motor setup is a simple upgrade from the eDrive 40, and what I mean by that is that it still has the same rear electric motor like the eDrive 40, which makes 340 horsepower, 430 Newton meters of torque, but now you get an additional electric motor for the front axles. So in total, this car makes 601 horsepower and 795 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 is done in 3.8 seconds, which is almost half of what the eDrive 40 does. And this one has a top speed of 230 kilometers an hour. Now, although the power is almost double, and so is the torque in the i5 M60, I have to be honest with you, I feel like it's not much of a significant difference, especially if you judge it in terms of driving excitement. Well, you just have a lot more power at your disposal. Does it feel a bit stiffer? Well, perhaps, maybe. I hope it's not a placebo effect that I'm having right now. It does feel a tad bit stiffer. I hope I'm right about this. Right, but generally, you get more power, you get all-wheel drive, but not too much in terms of the driving department. Now, perhaps there is a good reason why the i5 M60 isn't as exciting as I thought it would be, despite the higher power output. And I think the reason is because if this was the most exciting version of the 5 Series already, well, we wouldn't really be anticipating the M5, would we? An interesting thing about the M5, well, it is coming next year, and there will be an M5 touring version of it, and it will be a plug-in hybrid. There are also no additional driving options, even if you get the i5 M60 over the i5 eDrive 40, so you still get the same set of choices from the My Mode Sports menu. There's still the Sports, there's still the Expressive, and the rest of it. And even if you try to set things individually, like the steering, damping, DSC, and so on, you still get the same menu as you would in the i5 eDrive 40. So I was kind of hoping to get something extra from that. So there you have it. That is our first look at the all-new BMW 5 Series. Registration of interest has actually been open for the all-electric BMW i5 in Malaysia for quite some time now. Of course, we haven't yet seen the full lineup of the all-new 5 Series, as there will be the M5, the M5 Touring, and there will also be plug-in hybrid versions of this car. As usual, for more information on the all-new BMW 5 Series, head on to AutoBuzz.my. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.